what is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the second EP by rock band White Zombie. Basically, this product is called Pig Heaven / Slaughter the Gray, and it came out in the spring of 1986. So the thing about this particular product here is this is a quick, snappy EP here just to be able to get. I like the pitch behind this particular one. Some more quality music from White Zombie. I reviewed an EP by them last year. They dropped at least 4 of these, but they do have like a different kind of batch of, they do have like a number of batches of things that they've done kind of on like some side projects and pitches like that, I'd have to say. So I'm going to get to some more of these EPs here just to knock out a lot of these. There's at least 2 more White Zombie albums to get to. Their 1985 and 1987 albums, but this is just kind of the pitch of some of the initial kickoff when they were more hungry and pitches like that. This particular project here, Pig Heaven / Slaughter the Gray, reminds me of like Black Sabbath from like the 70s. I'd have to say, now I don't know a ton of Black Sabbath from like the 70s. I at least know their Paranoid album. I want to say they might have dropped an album in 1971. I don't own that 1971 album, but I do own Paranoid, and I do remember like the song War Pigs. I feel like there's a lot of similarities between the song Pig Heaven and the song War Pigs on this particular album. And this overall has that pitch, just 80s sludge, this typical kind of hangout type factor. The thing about White Zombie back in like the 80s and 90s was just the pitch that they had a lot of venue hangout, just some pitches like that. Just I'd say some good type fare, just some kickback with like beers or smokage, you know, cigarettes. Not to recommend cigarettes, but just cigarettes and beer, some of those type fares, just pitches like that, just different venue type noise and just hair metal sludge, some of that typeness of just like the greasy kind of 80s as far as those pitches will kind of happen. Standard typeness just kind of get here. It's a good pitch of like some early White Zombie that just nails it. It's a good concept. Not sure how much the availability behind this project actually kind of is, but it's quality enough to recommend. I'm glad that it was on Spotify within the tone behind it. It really has that kind of has that more just seedy kind of appeal to it that works pretty well. So it's just good type tones. It's not going to have a hit like Thunder Kiss 65. I think that's what it's called. I know it's called Thunder Kiss, but I don't remember the rest of it. The one from Lost Exorcisto Volume 1 from 1992, Thunder Kiss, some of those type ones, and then obviously not the gloss and electronic type factor of songs like More Human Than Human and some of those type ones I'd say. But it is just really, it's kind of a more kind of low-key type fare just to kind of get for like more just kind of venue type fare. It's just the venue noise behind it, just typical kind of just saloon type music, damn near just within the pitch behind it, some bar hoppiness within the tones, excellent type fare. But basically, just to say about this, I don't know if there are singles off this particular product, but apparently there were some more songs that were recorded for this particular session. Some of these type ones like Scarecrow Number 2, Rain Insane. Some of these type songs like Scarecrow Number 2, Rain Insane, Paradise Fireball, Red River Flow. Some of these types of ones that these wound up being on It Came From NYC, which I think was like a compilation type project. I will eventually get to that one. Just being able to say, so both these songs on this particular EP I recommend. So just go ahead and talk about these. Just some good type appeal. So Pig Heaven is like a laid back kind of venue hangout noise. I'd have to say about this one, this reminds me of Black Sabbath's War Pigs. Like I was saying, pretty dope concept for that. And it's like a good night entice to kind of get here and good beer swilling, beer sippage, just kind of have good type tone. Pig Heaven is just some lackadaisical type kickback, I'd have to say, just within the tone. Just folks wearing like the heavy loc type shades, some of those type pitches, people that look like that D. Snyder, people like that, some of those type folks like 80s rock stars, some of that type fare, I'd say, or looking like Tommy Lee from like when I think the band Poison. I forget some of these, but just kind of more glam rock folks like Guns N' Roses, of that type fare, I'd say, just within the pitch. But some of those type ones just be able to get some good 80s sheen typeness just kind of get here. And then Slaughter the Gray's another quality one as well. It's a nice pitch here. It's like an 80s sludge kind of mosh pit jammer to kind of get this more traditional type one. Something like if Black Sabbath were to have more mosh pit type songs, like a more 80s hair metal type cheesiness, I'd say it's a good concept. Not that this song is cheesy, but just kind of really feels like something ripped out of 1985 and like the Back to the Future and Big Trouble Little China type days, some of those type fares, that just that, you know, acid wash jean. This is kind of like the era of mullets and acid wash jeans as far as those pitches will kind of particularly happen with this. So it's a good concept. But yeah, this is some 80s sludge kind of mosh pit jammer to kind of get here, just relative hair metal feel about it. I definitely want to say, and this definitely has like some Black Sabbath type vibes to kind of get. The song definitely has some Black Sabbath type vibes to kind of get here, I'd say, just in the pitch. That's an excellent concept about this particular product. It really feels ripped out of like the Paranoid days, or just like the 70s days of Black Sabbath. Real good affluence, kind of get some of that, just some sludge metal, hair metal type tone, just more hangout type factor, typical of White Zombie as far as those pitches will kind of happen with it. Just some excellent type fare to kind of get. Rob Zombie barely sounds like Rob Zombie on this particular one. He kind of is just a little bit more traditional, sounds more like an 80s version, mid 80s version of Kurt Cobain. Some of those type folks are just something like that. A little bit of Ozzy Osbourne shrieks in there just within the tone behind it. It's just not quite as feral as like he is obviously on songs like later on by Rob Zombie, like Super Beast or some of those type ones, or More Human Than Human, some of those type ones, or Thunder Kiss, some of those type appeals, or just some of those type ones I'd have to say is just a little bit more kind of static just within the time. I mean, he still sounds like a rock star on some of these, but it's just kind of the concept is just not quite as like growling as far as those pitches kind of happen. But it is some nice ones here. Just really takes it back to Black Sabbath from like the 70s. So it's just, and that was really not that archaically long ago, from going from 1986 to about 1971, 1970, some of those type pitches. I mean, it was 16 years, but this feels like some of these type hangout type songs that would have just been like throwback type stuff, just to say that that was just yesteryear back in those particular days. But this is some good hangout type fare, just some venue type sludge, pinball and saloon type music. His pitches like that, jukebox type music just within the tone, and some bar hop, just get like some nachos, some of that typeness just kind of get. I mean, it's just traditional type White Zombie type fare, very social type project, just had the bite behind it and continues their track record, I'd have to say. So yeah, this EP gets a 10 out of 10, just be able to say about that. The social score I'll give a 10 out of 10 as well, just within the pitch behind it. It's a snappy type project. Probably I would have liked at least one more song in here, but just within the excellent type fare behind it, I do like some of these brief snappy type ones just to be able to get, because it's just what you see is what you get. I don't know the price of this particular EP. It might be tougher to track down and harder. It might be a little bit more pricey within a relative sense, but it probably should just be, you know, $8, $10, something like that. But even then, just for two songs, that's kind of here and there with that. But I'd still say these songs are excellent. And then you could also just probably get the It Came From NYC project that has these songs plus a few others that they recorded in that session. So it's a good concept for that. We'll get to some of those. But just to say, in terms of the future, like White Zombie is not really around as much anymore. I'd say Rob Zombie might perform occasionally some of these type songs, but White Zombie is kind of a product of the past. But I'd say there are some more ones to kind of get to here. There's at least 2 more EPs I'm going to have to get to, plus some of these loose type projects and compilations that I'd say like It Came From NYC, and then of course there are 2 other albums from 1985 and 87. So we'll get to some of these. This is a nice snappy type one to kind of get in another stock classic just for 80s sludge and hair metal venue noise.